the score of islands that form the Barra group, only 2 are inhabited today. Barra, the main island, and this island of Vatersay. Now, away at the beginning of the century, when Barra was a thriving place, you could actually walk from this island on the hulls of fishing boats all the way to Barra. And yet, this island was lying empty, apart from being farmed by Lady Gordon Cathcart's man. But the people of the southern islands, who were having a hard time, presumably they wanted a share in this bonanza that was going. They saw this empty island and they decided to move in on it. They colonized Vatersay by just staking claims, building huts, starting to dig, and of course action was taken against them. This action resulted in some of the leaders going to Calton Jail in Edinburgh, but luckily the government took the right action. They allowed the people to stay, they gave them holdings, and the majority of the people who were living in this island to try to make a new life for themselves were Mingulay folk or Barra people who were in need of land, because there was a genuine land hunger in these days. The fishing was good, but it was mainly East Coast boats that was doing it. The crofting land, it wasn't in great heart, and the standard of living that people were expecting in these days wasn't high. It was mainly subsistence living. But the people of Vatersay did extremely well. By 1930, the population was 240 on Vatersay. The people who are living here today are descendants of these crofters, and there are 1 or 2 of the Mingulay people still alive on this island who did that raid way back in 1908. And it's going to be very interesting for me today to go ashore and see what life is like on Vatersay now. Donald Campbell, hello.
Yes.
Well, I know you're the village postman, but you're also a crofter, right?
Yes, I've got 6 crofts.
Aye, how does that come about?
Well, it's quite a lot of old people here, you know, and as things were, you know, the crofts were more or less left derelict there, you know, and some of them suggested I take them on, you know, pay the rent, and that's how it came about.
So there's no land hunger now?
No, there's no land hunger now, no. Because there's only there's about 5 or 6 of us, kind of young here, you know, and they're mostly doing all the craft work.
I get the feeling of dereliction around here.
Oh yes, there's quite a lot of that, you know. It's not so easy. There's a lot of scrap lying about, you know. It's not so easy to get rid of that here. And it comes in handy sometimes for spares. We're so far away from the mainland, you know, and sending away for spare parts for an engine and all that, you know, it takes time, and usually you happen to come about the odd bit, you know, when you're doing repairs.
If you keep a thing long enough, it comes in useful.
Oh yes, yes it does.
Have you got a direct connection with Mingulay?
Oh yes, yes.
Tell me about it.
Well, my great-grandfather was a Mingulay chap, and then my 2 grandfathers, they were from Barra, and my father, when he was born, he went up to Mingulay to live with his grandfather up there, and he was in Mingulay till he left school at 14. They used to leave school at 14 then. So he knows quite a lot about Mingulay, you know.
And passed on the stories to you?
Yes, yes.
And he's still going strong?
Yes, yes. He's going on to his 89th birthday now, yes.
Great.
Yes. And again, they were mostly depending on the fishing, you know, when the people came from Mingulay there, herring fishing, and used to go out with great lines, you know, fish cod and ling and all that, you know. And instead of getting paid for it, instead of getting money, they used to go to the shopkeepers there, you know. And usually it was one of the shopkeepers who bought their catches. And they were just fishing more or less for the shopkeepers at the time, you know, and they were getting their groceries from there. That's the way they were working it.
So it was subsistence. The expectation was a living.
That's
a
right.
living from living here,
Yes.
but there was no holidays.
Oh, no, no.
or anything of that kind?
No, no such a thing as holidays at that time. You had to work all the days of your life, I think. Yes.
Do you think it was the good harbour here that was the main thing that caused the Mingulay folk to leave, the fact that there was land and a good landing place here?
Yes, and they were nearer Barra too, you know. It's quite a distance away from Barra, going up there on a rough day, maybe with 7 or 8 bowls of flour aboard a small boat, you know, and maybe when you'd arrive up at Mingulay, you couldn't get landed there with a bad sea running, and you'd have to turn back. There was quite a lot of that happening, you know, and stuff getting wet, you know, carried up there too on a bad day. Quite a few came across from Barra as well to Vatersay at that time when they raided it, you know, because they were much better off in Mingulay than they were over in Barra there in Kentangoval.
Were they?
And Lejak on Barra, yes, because these poor people, they had no crofts at all, you know, and they used to come across here to Vatersay, and they got potato patches from MacDonald, the farmer on Vatersay here, on conditions that they'd cultivate it properly after, you know, and plant seed or something there to keep the ground in good condition. And, you know, another thing about Mingulay, they depended quite a lot on the seabirds at that time too. So I don't think they were ever hungry, you know, not the same as quite a lot in Barra there that were badly needing food at that time, and I think that mostly prompted them to come here as well. But as regards the Mingulay folk, I think it was mostly the bad sea and all that, you know, that and being nearer Barra here that made them leave, because they used, when the seabirds come, you know, the guillemots and the razorbills and puffins and all birds come along, you know, it's easy enough for them to get food. Then used to kill a lot of them and keep the feathers, you know, for mattresses and pillowcases, what do you call them anyway, those pillows. And the down as well. They used to keep the down as well, you know, quite a lot of that too.
The population, Donald, has gone down fairly steadily since the 30s. How do you feel about Vatersay now?
Oh, I think the population is building up now again, you know. It went down for a time there, right enough. But now seeing they're getting better chances for getting fishing boats and all that, you know, and quite a few of the young chaps are staying at home and rearing their families here, you know, and the population is increasing again. And we're much better off just now in every way, because we've got the electricity here, we've got a water supply here, telephone, we've got the road, and they're going to build a new jetty now on the island as well, so that will keep people in a job for here enough, the best part of a year anyway, yes. And another thing, you know, about islands like these, you know, bringing up children, you haven't got the worries of being in a city, you know, where you're afraid to let your kids out, you know. There's plenty of scope for them here, and I think things will build up right enough. It's looking much better than what it was anyway.
Does anybody lock their doors here at night?
Oh, very seldom. If you like, you can lock it, and if not, you don't need to worry about it.
Where's the nearest policeman?
Oh, in Barra. Yes, in Barra. There's no policeman on this island at all.
This Hebridean island of Vatersay is really shaped like the letter H, with hills on one side and the hill that I'm standing on with a short connecting bar of sandy macha. And this was the area of the Croftland where the Mingulay people and the Barra people set up all these years ago. And I was speaking to a man a few days ago who was telling me of his mother when she lived in Barra. She lived in a hut and she'd been given 3 hens as a wedding gift, and she had to kill them because her neighbour objected to them wandering onto her land. And then his parents got a croft in Vatersay. 4 acres where you could have 2 cows, a potato patch, a patch of oats, you could grow your vegetables, you could have your own boat and go fishing in the sea. It was riches. Today on Vatersay there's 150 acres of land. There are 20 children in the school, 10 adults who want to make a go of Vatersay, and some old and extremely intelligent people who remember old times and want to see Vatersay come to the life that they knew it when it carried a large population. And before I go down and talk to one of the young lobster fishermen, there's something down on the shore that I would like to show you, because it brings home how hard a master the sea is when you live in a vulnerable island. Well, this is the macha that almost divides Vatersay in two. And in the middle, above the fine Atlantic Bay, is this stone, which commemorates something that's rather a mystery. How a ship called the Annie Jane ran aground and was wrecked in that bay with a loss of 350 lives, men, women and children, who are buried in this spot. How did it happen? Well, there is a tradition in Vatersay that it happened because the skipper of the ship thought this was a sound through the island, because this island is almost 2 islands. There are hills on both sides, low in the middle, and the probability is that at one time Vatersay was 2 islands, and that ship, the Annie Jane, paid the price for it. The last words of the monument read, "And the sea gave up their dead." James McNeill. It's a gay misty night after a reasonably good day. I suppose you're very well used to it being a lobsterman, but what's it like lobstering just now?
Well, it's not too great really, because the lobster's not going great. It's pretty bad fishing due to the good weather and everything.
Well, the weather's too good for lobstering.
That's right.
In what way?
Well, it's been calm. The sea's been calm so long, and the lobster feeds by the plankton and everything. Because the sea's that still.
Seamus Sinclair, you're helping in the lobstering here. How have you been finding it since you came back here?
Oh, well, it all depends. It all goes on the weather, mostly.
Gay dirty night tonight.
Well, I would say, yeah.
There must be a great element of danger in it sometimes.
Oh, well, during winter there is. It's not too bad in summer. Well, the worst month of all was March, I think.
Where do the lobsters go when they're caught?
It's been sold to the market.
Where?
They go abroad, they go to the continent, all over the world. Not only Britain itself now.
But where are they sent from Vatersay? Where's the nearest sale point?
We sell them over in Castleby on the quay. And from there they go to Used. From there, we don't know, there's a chartered plane coming from the continent or somewhere.
Now you're a Vatersay man, a young man, you're only 20, and how long have you actually been lobstering now?
5 years.
5 years. You were telling me you lived in Glasgow for a wee while.
Well, I was born there, yeah.
But you are a Vatersay man by descent. And since you've been here, you've been enjoying life more here than in Glasgow.
Well, you've more freedom here than you have elsewhere, haven't you?
How do you see your future in Vatersay? You want to stay there or leave it or whatever?
No, I wouldn't like to leave it. I was working in Glasgow for 6 months and I'd rather the sea than that. Rather sea than dry land.
But tell me this, what's good about Vatersay?
Well, there isn't much good about it. Only you've got more freedom there than you have elsewhere.
Well, there's not much good about it. What's bad about it?
There's no life for a start. You've nowhere to go.
But even though you say that, you still prefer Vatersay to Glasgow.
I would say, yeah.
Ah, well, that's the answer. So you see for yourself, would you like to make a life in Vatersay, marry, settle down?
Oh, yes, I would. As long as the lobster keeps going.
You enjoy the challenge of the sea, right?
I do, yeah. I've been born and brought up in the game, so may as well carry on now.
Okay.
For God's sake.
After the uninhabited islands of the Barra group were the only sign of human population, of the ruins deserted not so long ago, it was great to come to Vatersay and talk to young people, able-bodied men and women who really enjoy living on an island that 10 years ago seemed to be likely to become another uninhabited island. The population had so gone down in Vatersay that it looked as if the school was going to close. Now it's on the up and up, and I'm sure Vatersay's got a future. Well, one thing is certain, no island can keep its people unless they really want to live there. And it's great that that's how the people of Vatersay are seeing it now. A good life, not just one that they're obliged to live. And a wee bit to the north, the island of Eriskay is the perfect example, a shining example in the whole of the Hebrides. We made a film entirely devoted to Eriskay, and this is just a trailer. We talked to the bard, whose sister is a singer, and they gave us a fine impression of the tremendous pleasure to live on a tiny island. Donald MacDonald, after 30 years of schoolmastering in Eriskay, you retire this year. You'll be sorry, I imagine.
Yes, I am indeed. I'll miss the children. I'll miss my contact with the parents in a certain sense, but I'm staying in the island.
Do you find much difference in the children, basically, that you're getting now from, say, your beginnings as a teacher here in Eriskay?
Yes, I do, yes. When I came here in 1947, it was actually after the war, and the island was very poor then. There's very little money in it, and there was quite a danger that it might go out of existence altogether. And the people sort of took things onto themselves. They didn't get very much help from outside. We didn't have any public works or works like that to give jobs to the people, you see, and they sort of took on to the fishing again, and the island developed during the 30 years to such an extent that the children of today are very, very much unlike the children who were here when I came here, because they're very well off, and their parents are well off, and they're quite different in every kind of way. But I think, in a certain sense, they've improved in manners and, I would say, in scholarship and everything, you know. I think because of it wasn't actual poverty, but lack of things when I came here that made them, you know, not just a happy, contented set of children. But my school, when I left the other week, they were a happy, contented set of children. They had money. Well, their parents had money and they were comfortably off. And I think it's a good thing, really. In my own time, it was 10 times worse. And things have developed to such an extent that the children of today are much happier in every sense of the word.
But do you feel that they'll be contented to stay here?
They will be, yes. My own children are. They would come back and stay here any day. And I think that applies to all the children of the island. They would be quite happy to come back if there was any kind of opportunity for them to do so.
And do you see the future then in an enlargement of the fishing, more and more boats?
Yes, that would be the, well, I wouldn't say it would be the salvation of the island, because the island has been saved already. It could have died, but it's been saved. But if more boats come in and more people come in, well, it would make it an even more prosperous island. It would be a really good place to stay.
Well, you paint a very good picture, Donald MacDonald, and I wish you a very happy retirement.
Thank you very much. It's a genuine picture. I wouldn't say anything else except that.
I was speaking to your brother this morning, who's known as the Bard, the schoolmaster, and I was told by somebody else I should come and get you to sing one of his songs, the song about Eriskay.
Ilang Bikmovian, my beloved island. Ilang Green Hog, the island of youth. How it horse a huan in year on its own on the west coast, more or less. She Eriskay is Bohjelm. Eriskay is my loveliest island. Above every place I've been. And the second song's more or less referring to Father Allen's island.
The great priest, the
the
poet.
Great priest of Eriskay, and how he liked Eriskay, and in his last days that he got his wish to be buried in Eriskay, in the graveyard beside the sea. So chwch you two na trai is shore,
The sand.
yes. The graveyard over there.
Well, thank you very much
Yes.
indeed, Marit.
O sienie mission dar ansio, Elain big movian, Elain grün hage haulet harse juan in year. She Eriskay spoilem, shachat and romidia, faromi lion mage, miskne man chichene trio. Skerhatan hukung diesti, leshpo vian viaun tab. Chestion skenieriet, bdieren kietach bla. Masche delain tjevi garoyer sendan. Gumbe vian vi tjelikje, Sachlagdi tuventag.